Hello and welcome to the HAA Class Sites training. The goal of this training is to teach you everything you need to know in order to be able to get your site up and running, including making edits to pages, creating new pages, uploading and managing files and images, creating and managing events, and creating and deploying emails to your classmates. To begin, you'll want to go to your class site. The convention for the URL is the class year followed by .classes.harvard.edu. So for example, 1997.classes.harvard.edu. If you are a separate Harvard and Radcliffe class, you'll add either an H or an R before your class year. For the purposes of this training, I'll be working off of a demonstration site. So we'll begin with a quick tour of the site. You'll notice that I'm in the browser Firefox. That is the preferred browser for editing the site, but it should be viewable in basically any browser on a Mac or a PC. So we've gone to the demonstration site, and just as a quick tour, you'll see that there's a menu bar across the top. You have options. There's a home button. You can log in. There's a reunion section, which includes a drop-down menu with several other pages. There's a connect section, where you can link social media accounts or other various ways for your classmates to connect with each other. There's a class event section. There's a class notes link, which takes you to the alumni.harvard.edu class notes page for your class. There's an Our Class section with the drop-down menu. There's a class committee page that you can create. And then finally, there is a contact page. Going back to the home page, beneath the slideshow banner image, you'll see that there's basically two halves to the page. And the goal for this homepage design is so that you, as a webmaster, do not have to spend a lot of time updating it to have the newest Harvard news here. So you'll see on the right, there's a section for the HAA Twitter fall, and then there are direct feeds to Harvard Magazine, the Harvard Gazette, and the Harvard Crimson. And the three newest stories will always be here. You don't have to do any of this updating yourself. They'll just appear here automatically. Looking over on the left part of the screen, where it says Welcome up here, this is sort of the main section of your home page where you can put as much as you want in here. We just have a little bit on this demonstration site, but you could certainly put a full page's worth of information here if you wanted to. Underneath that will be sections labeled Upcoming Events and Latest News. And we'll look at this later, but the website has a feature where you can pull in content from other parts of your website into your home page automatically. So for example, with the Upcoming Events section, if you were to create an event within the Events Hub, you could tag it as a featured event, and it would automatically show up on your home page. This saves you time from having to recreate a preview of the event from scratch on your home page. Similarly, you can tag items as featured news, and they'll show up on your home page as well. Now that we've seen what the site looks like, we'll want to log in. Note that all of your classmates will have to log in order to access content that you've put behind a restricted alumni login wall. But obviously, as site administrators, you're going to want to log in right away in order to be able to access the back end of the site. So in order to log in, we're going to go up to our top menu bar here. We're going to select Login. And after we click on Login, there'll be one little drop-down menu that says Alumni Login. So we'll click on that. This will take you to the Harvard Key page. And as a reminder, Harvard Key is the new Harvard login that's replacing your old alumni.harvard or post.harvard login. And we'll be sharing information on how to access this before your training begins. So you'll see that once you log in, it should recognize you. For example, it says Welcome John for me. And then you'll see that to the left of the home icon on this menu bar is a little blue circle. And that is how you'll access the back end of the site. And that will only appear for site administrators when they log in. So we'll start with a quick demo of how to edit any pages that are already on your site, which is probably the bulk of what you might be doing on your website. So as an example, let me just go to a random reunion page. Now, anywhere that there's content that you can edit, if you look to the bottom right of that content, it's very tiny, but you'll see that there's a little green square with a pencil inside of it. If you click on that green square once, it will reload the page. It looks just like it did before, except now that if you click your cursor anywhere into the text, it's now editable. You'll see that a toolbar will appear. It looks very similar to what you might see in a program like Microsoft Word. And you could just start typing in here. You could do any of these options that this toolbar allows. You could bold the text, italicize it, underline it. You could change the color, the size, the font style. You could left align it, center or right, and many other options as well. So let's say maybe you want to hyperlink text as an example. So this says come home to Harvard. So let's say I want Harvard to hyperlink to maybe the alumni site. In order to hyperlink any text, you simply highlight it with your mouse. You then go into your toolbar, and the bottom left icon says link. And for any of these icons, if you hover over them for a moment before clicking on them, it should describe what it is in case you're unsure. So the bottom left icon of this toolbar is the link. That will open up a new window, and you'll see that by default, our cursor is in this URL box, and that's where you would put the URL of the site that you want to hyperlink out to. Note that we have one more step. So you want to make sure that when your classmates click on links on your site that they don't lose their place on your class website. So what we do is within this link window, you'll see that there's multiple tabs here. We're currently in the link info tab. We're going to want to go to the target tab. Once we're in the target tab, the only thing on this page is a drop-down menu labeled target. By default, it says not set. If we click on the drop-down arrow to the right of it, we're going to select new window blank, and then we'll click OK. So what this means is that when they click on a hyperlink, it'll open that page up in a new tab or a new window, and that way your class website is still open somewhere else so that they don't lose their place. So once you've made any edits to a page, you simply scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see that there's two buttons. There's a gray one to the left that says no change, and then to the right of it is a bigger blue one that says publish. Whenever you want to save something, you click publish. And after you do that, it'll take you into the back end of the site where it lists all of your pages. For now, I'll go back to the home page, and I'll show you how to get here separately. And note that you can get back to your home page either by clicking on the little home icon in the menu bar here, or if you click on the banner at the top of your website that says your class year, they'll both take you to your home page. Okay, so if we click on our blue circle here to the left of our home icon, you'll see that we have multiple different sections. Manage articles, manage files and images, manage newsletter, manage events, and manage users. Note that these are also the names of the 5 training PDFs that we'll send you before your training. So feel free to go back and reference these as you teach yourself how to use the site. Today we're going to start with the Manage Articles section. So articles in this site simply means any content or pages that you're creating. So once you click on Manage Articles, you'll be taken into the back end where you can see a listing of all of the articles that you've created. And note that there's a lot here already. We have created several placeholders that are being used as templates across all of the sites. So numbers 0 through 200 are reserved for those. Anything new that you create will start with number 201, and they'll always be listed with the newest ones at the top. Note that if you're trying to search for something, you can click on any of these header columns, whether it's the headline or the date or the topic, and it will resort the page accordingly. You can also do a search in this headline field here, and then click the blue search button at the top of the page. For the purpose of this training, we're going to create a brand new article. So to do that, if you look over in the right side, there's a blue button that says Create Article. So we're going to click on that once, and it'll take us to a new page. And once we get to this page, you'll see that there's a long, thin gray bar where it says Begin Content, followed by some white space, and then followed by another long gray bar where it says End Content. So we're going to want to put the content for this article in that white space. So to activate this, we're going to click our cursor once into that white space. And just as before, the toolbar that we might see in Microsoft Word appears. So now you could either just start typing something, or if you had text from a different program, you could paste that in here. But what we've done is we've created some templates for you so that you can get started with the design, and that way you can just put in your text and it will already look nice without much heavy lifting in terms of formatting. So in order to access those templates, we're going to look at our toolbar again, and this time we're going to go to the bottom right icon, which looks like a piece of paper with a folded corner. If we hover over it, it says Templates. So we click on it once, we get a new window where it offers us 3 different options. And let's say I like this first one, so I just click on it once. So it has now populated this field with that template. And note that obviously this is just filler Latin text, but now if you had text that you really wanted here, you could just paste it in. Any of this text is editable, so you can just write over it. And same as before, you can bold the text, you could underline it, you could edit it any way you want using this toolbar. You could hyperlink text using that link icon in the bottom left of the toolbar if you wanted to. But let's say we want to do a bit more than what this editor offers us. So if you look at the very top left of your browser window, right underneath the URL bar, you should see what looks like a dark gray semicircle with 2 downward facing arrows. If we click on that once, it's going to pull down our tool drawer. And this has many other options of items that we can put into our page. Now if you look to the about middle of the left page here, there's now a vertical oval menu with several different icons. So we begin in this first one, and this is all examples of headlines, paragraphs, and other formatted text blocks. So let's say I like the formatting of this Neil Armstrong quote. In order to add that to my page, I simply click on it, hold down the mouse, and I drag and drop it where I want it to go into my page, and then release. And now it is in my content, and I can edit that text by simply highlighting over it and then typing whatever I want to be there. Going back to our menu on the left here, we're now going to click on the second icon, which looks like an image of some mountains and a sun. So this is all of your images that you've uploaded or any other documents. So you can see that we have some up here to begin with. We've put some to start on your sites that you can work with, but obviously you can upload any additional ones as well. So let's say I want to add a picture to my site. Let's say I like this one from commencement. I want to put it at the bottom of my content. Same as before, I just click, drag and drop where I want it to go, release, and it's now in the page. Going back to our menu on the left here, this third icon, which looks like an upward facing arrow, is how to upload files. You'll be presented with this spinning gray circle. All you have to do is click on it once, and it will open up the file manager from your computer, and you can just open up a file and it will upload it to your site. And there is a different way to do this as well, which we'll look at later. This is sort of the quick way to do it on the fly if you're in the middle of creating a page and you need to upload something. In order to close this tool jar, at the bottom of this little oval menu on the left, those 2 downward facing arrows are now upward facing, so we just click on that once, and that pulls the tool jar up, and it's now out of the way. So note that I added a picture. If I want to resize it, I just click on it once, and just like in Microsoft Office or any other program, we now have the resizing bars around it. If I want to make it bigger, I just click on the diagonal arrow, and I can resize it how I want. Or additionally, if you want to be more specific with your sizing, you can right-click on any picture and select Image Properties. And that will open up a new tab where you can specify the exact width and height of the picture. And you can also hyperlink pictures. So within this window, you'll see there's 3 tabs: Image Info, Link, and Advanced. We're currently in Image Info, but if we go to Link, there's a space for URL. This is where we can put the URL of another site. And remember, for your target, you want to select New Window, Blank, to open it up in a new tab or a new window. Okay, so let's say that I'm happy with how this content looks. So now underneath that content section, underneath that gray bar that says End Content, there are several different settings that I have to fill out under here. So just as a note before we get into this section, there are some parts on the back end of the website that don't really make sense or apply to our use of these websites. So for example, where this says for collections only, you could just ignore that. But we do definitely want to add a headline and a subhead and a thumbnail. So what this means is that if you are listing this page on maybe like a list of events, for example, this is the section that they'll see before they click on it and takes them into the actual content page. It's a good idea, no matter how you're setting it up, to always add a headline, subhead, and thumbnail just in case. So I'm going to give this a headline, and note that this will be the outward-facing headline for the page. But since this is just a test example, I'll just make a test headline. Underneath that, in the subhead section, you'll probably want to add a sentence or two, maybe describing what the page is about. It's sort of like a mini preview of what the content's going to be about. And then to the right of those two sections, you'll see that there's a space for article thumbnail. It's a good idea to add a picture here. It just looks nicer to have an image next to the headline. So in order to add an image, just like before, we're going to go to our very top left drop-down tool drawer. We're going to go to our image section. And you can drag and drop any image you want. If you don't have anything that you think is best for this, we do have the Harvard, the Radcliffe, and the Harvard and Radcliffe shields there as well for you to use. So if I want to add a picture, same as before, I simply just drag and drop into that space, and the thumbnail is now there. And again, to close the tool drawer, I just click on the two upward-facing arrows of this menu, and it's now away. Okay, so underneath this, we have a section called Topic, and there's topics 1, 2, and 3. You'll only ever have to pick a topic 1. And from this drop-down menu, you see that there's several options, but we're only ever going to probably work with 3 of them. If it's an event, you'll pick events. If it's a news item, pick news. And anything else, you can pick generic. Now for this example, I'm going to pick an event because that requires a few more steps that I want to walk through. And note that if we didn't pick event, we would now be done. We would go to the bottom of the page, and we would click on the blue Publish button, and this page would now be saved. But it's an event, so it has a few more steps. So underneath our topic section, on the left it has event parameters, where you can pick the start, the end date, and the time zone. To access that, you just click on the calendar icon to the right, and you can pick your start and end time. Pick your time zone. And underneath that, it says Feature this event. So this refers to that section on your home page where you could have the preview of this show up there. So if you do want this to show up on your home page, you simply click on this button, and it should change from off to featured, and it should be blue. To the right of that is the location section. If you're having an event, it's probably a good idea to tell people where the event is going to be, so you can just fill this out with an address. Once you've taken care of that, you can scroll to the bottom. We're going to go to our blue Publish button and click on that. This will now take us back into the back end where we see the listing of all of our articles, and the newest one is at the top, and you can see it right there. So let's say I want to manage or edit this page in some way. If you look to the right of every one of these pages, there's a blue gear icon. If you click on that gear once, we're going to get a drop down with 5 different options. Edit allows us to go back in and edit the page. Duplicate will make a copy of it. Restrict will put it behind alumni login so that only your classmates can see it after they have logged in. And I'll show you how to do that afterwards. Archive takes it off of the front end of the site, but it's still saved on the back end. So maybe you're taking down a page temporarily and you want to make a bunch of edits to it. You can archive it and then put it back up live after you're done. And delete will delete it entirely from the site. So let's say I want to edit the page because I noticed that I misspelled my headline. So in that sense, I'm going to click Edit. Everything is still here. The content's still saved. All the other information is still here. So now because this was an event that we chose, we actually have one more piece that we have to add into the content. So I'm actually going to remove this image just to get it out of the way for now. And because of what we're adding here, we're going to want some space at the bottom of our content. So I'm going to just click at the bottom after my content ends and just click the Enter key a few times so we have some white space underneath the content of the page. Now once more, I'm going to go back into our top left tool drawer menu. We're going to work in the headline and paragraph section. And within this window, I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom, past all the various text options we have for us. And when you get to the bottom, you'll see this lime green rectangle that says Magnet Widget Event Dashboard. So the same as anything else in this tool drawer, I'm just going to click and drag and drop it into the page. Then I'll close my tool drawer. So once you've added this to the page, you don't need to edit the text, you don't need to resize it, you can just put it there and leave it alone. So this will do two things on the back end so that you don't have to do the coding for this. So because we chose for this to be an event, we probably want people to sign up for the event on the page if that's something that you want it to be like. So what this will do is this will create an RSVP form for the event automatically. And the second thing that it will do is, as long as you've entered in a location information below for the event, which we did before, it will embed a Google Map image of that location for you. So it does those two things, the RSVP form and the Google Map. It does them automatically just by dragging and dropping this in. No additional work or coding is required by you. So now we're happy with that. We just go to the bottom again, and once more we click Publish. So let's say I only want my classmates to be able to see this event, so I'm going to click on our blue gear to the right. This time I'll click Restrict. And there's a lot on this page that we can ignore. We're just going to scroll to the very bottom where it says Restrict View To. And in this text box, we're going to type in 1002. And that is just the code to put content behind alumni login. So once we type in 1002, we click the blue Restrict Article button, and it'll take us back in to the back-end listing of all the content. If I ever want to take something out from behind login so that it was publicly viewable, once more I just click on the blue gear to the right of it, click Restrict again, scroll to the bottom of the page, I remove the 1002, and I click the blue Restrict button, and it's now available to the public. Okay, so that covers the Manage Articles section. But now, because we chose an event, this segues into the Manage Events section, which is pretty quick. There's really only one page we have to go through. So to get to that area, we click on our blue circle in our top menu bar again, and we click on Manage Events. Now, any items that you've chosen a topic of events for should be listed in this section. So you can see the top one here is the one from today. Now, in order to edit and change the properties of that, I'm going to click on the blue gear icon to the right. I'm going to select View. And you can ignore a quick memo and add by tickets here. Those don't really have any functionality. Okay, so when you're on this page, this is how you would manage the event. And note that there's an RSVP list section. So once this is live and your classmates can actually RSVP to it, it would list everybody who has signed up here. And note that it says that you can click here to download the list into Excel. So you could use that for a sign-in list, or you could then import it into Word and mail merge it and make name tags if you wanted to. So going back up at the top, you can see in crimson it lists the name of the event. It then has the event date. Underneath that, there are three sections that we're going to want to worry about here. It says max capacity for this event, begin showing the Look Who's Coming list, and quick RSVP waitlist control. And note that to the right of these three items, in brackets, it says Edit. If you click on either one of these three edits, it's going to take you to the same page where you can change all three of these items. So I'll just click on this one. Okay, so we have our three items we have to change here. At the top, it says Enter Maximum Capacity. If you actually have capacity for your event, so let's say you can only have 25 people come, then you would type in 25. If you don't have capacity, you can either type unlimited or just type in a really high number that you'll never hit. Underneath that is a Look Who's Coming list section. So if you want to, you can have people's names show up on the event page after they have signed up. That may get other people interested in signing up for the event as well. So if you want that to show up right away, you can type in 1. If you want to wait a bit until it looks more popular, you can pick a higher number. And if you never want this to show up, just pick a very high number again that you'll never hit, and that way the names will never show up. But you on the back end, of course, will still be able to access those names. And finally, important step here where it says Quick RSVP Waitlist Feature. By default, it says Disabled. You want to make sure that you pick Quick RSVP Enabled. And this just means that if you want to, you can allow your classmates to sign up for the event right on the page. Note that for these event registrations, the site currently at this point does not take commerce. So if you're charging people for the event, they'll have to pay you some other way for now. But we are hoping within the next year to get that feature up and running on the site. Underneath this section is a gray button that says Save New Settings. I click on that. So now that is it for the Manage Events section. So just to preview what this looks like when it's live, if I go to my class event section in our top menu bar, you'll see the top listing here is the one I just made, and you can see that there's my heading and my article thumbnail and the subhead. If I click on it, it'll take me into the actual page where you see the content that I created. Underneath that, you can see the Google map that I embedded. And again, that was because of that green widget that we dropped in. And on your site, you'll also have the RSVP form. On the demo site, I do not. But underneath the map, there would be a form where your classmates could input their contact information to sign up for an event. Okay, so we're now going to move on to our third section, which is another quick one. And this one is for managing files and images. So to get to that section, we click on our blue circle icon again in our menu bar. And we select Manage Files and Images. So once you're on this page, there are 3 tabs across the top. You can see there's Manage Files, which we're in right now. Then there's Upload Files. Then there's Manage Image Albums. So we'll start in this Manage Files section. And you can see that there is a search field at the top here. If you want to search for something, you just type in the info and then click the blue Apply Filter button. You'll notice that on the top left of every image, there are 2 little buttons. There's a blue one for info, and then there's a red one with an X. As you may imagine, the red one with an X will delete the picture, but it will ask you if you really meant to do that once you click on it, so there's no accidental deletions. But we're going to click on the blue icon here, and that takes you to a page specifically for this image. And if you scroll down underneath the image, you'll see there are sections for title, caption, photographer credit, or any other comments. So if you want to add in a lot of information for this picture so it's easier to keep it organized or to find it later, you can add all this information in right here. And then once you're satisfied with that, you scroll down below that, and you click on the blue Save Changes to this File button. Or if you've made no changes, you can click Cancel. And note that at the end of every image I have here, there's a number. So for example, this one says 34, and then 33, then 32. That is automatically added every time you upload an image to the site. So you don't have to do that. That's just sort of how the site keeps track of what your images are. And this will be important when we create photo albums, which I'll get to momentarily. We're going to move on to the second tab, which is for Upload Files. And this looks just like what we saw before from our drop-down tool drawer menu. You just click on the spinning gray circle, and you can pick the file that you want and upload it. And it actually says right here, but also in the PDF packet, all the different various file types you can upload. Note that there is a 2 megabyte limit per file, but there is no collective storage limit. So you can upload as many pictures as you want to this site, but they have to be under 2 megabytes. Unfortunately, that means that video cannot be uploaded, but you can embed video or link it if you have it hosted somewhere else. Okay, now I'm going to go to the Manage Image Albums section, and this will list all of my various albums. Much like before with our articles, there's a gear icon to the right of each one where we can view them or edit them or delete them. But I'm going to want to create a new one right now. So to do that, you'll see that in the top right, there's this blue square with a white plus sign in it. So I'll click on that. And now I can give my album a name. I can give it a description, which I'll do now. And then underneath those 2 sections, it says Included Images, and the directions are in here. It says Enter image IDs separated by commas. For example, 12, 43, 21. So the reason why those automatically appended numbers for each image are important is because that's what you'll need in order to create a photo album. So let's say I like 33, 32, 23, 12. Underneath that, it says Album Status. Most of the time, you can keep it as general. The only album that really wouldn't be general is the one that's across the top of your home page, and in that sense, you would select Hidden. But any other album you want, just keep as general, and that should be fine. Underneath that, there are buttons for Cancel, or the blue button for Save Changes to this album. And that takes you back to the same page you were on. In order to be able to view that, You'll see that there's a little breadcrumb trail here at the top where it says Manage Albums. I click on that. That takes me back to my page of all my albums. My newest one is right at the top here. And if I click on the blue gear icon to the right, I can select View, and that will allow me to view the album. These are obviously just test images, so these are weird examples, but you get the idea. So note that these aren't albums in a page of content. These are essentially full new pages. They're slideshow albums. If you wanted to put lots of pictures into content on a page, you would just have to drag and drop into the article like we saw before. But if you want to do a full page slideshow album, this is the way to do that. And note that this album has URL when it's made. So what you would do is if you wanted to link this out from a page, you would simply hyperlink either text or an image with this link, and when they click on that, it would take them in a new tab to this slideshow. Okay, so now we're going to go into the Manage Newsletters section. And newsletter basically just means emails. So if we go click on our blue circle icon, we can select Manage Newsletter. And this currently lists all the different test ones that I've created. And you'll see at the top here there are 4 different sections. The first one is Pending, and this is just any content that you've created but haven't actually scheduled to go out yet. Sent will be your sent emails. Templates are any email templates that you've created. So maybe you have a monthly email. You can just make it one time, save it as a template, and then just make minor edits to it every time. And queued are any ones that are scheduled to go out in the future. For this example, we're going to create a new one. So if we go over to the right, once again, we have a blue square with a white plus sign in it. If we click on that, we can create a new email. And this looks very much like what we saw with the Manage Article section, where we have our long, thin gray bars with our white content in the middle. And again, we just click into the content. Our Microsoft Word looking toolbar appears. You could just start typing. You could paste stuff in from another program. Or once again, we've created templates that you can work with. So remember that the template button is on the bottom left. And now these are custom email templates. And these are made to scale to both desktop and mobile. So they look good no matter which device your classmates are reading this on. So I'll pick this first one. And same as before, it's full of just placeholder text for now, but you can paste anything you want. Just like before, if we want to add in images, we can go into our drop-down tool jar from the top left. We can go into the image section, and I can just drag and drop any of these images in that I want. Note that for when you're managing newsletters, there is a slight change to this drop-down tool jar. The first section, rather than being headlines and other text formatting, will be the sort of the preview section of any events you have. So let's say you create an event and you want to email your classmates about it. What this is taking is the headline, the subhead, and the article thumbnail that you put in for that event, and you can just drag and drop it into the page, and that's now in your email. That way you don't have to write it up from scratch. And if they click on this in their email, it'll take them automatically to the event page on your class website for this particular event. Now note that at the beginning of this email, it starts with where it says Dear First Name, and it's first name in brackets, and there's an underscore between it. That is the tag that allows the email to be customized for every person. In order to add that into your email, if you scroll to the bottom underneath the content, you'll see that there's a section called Mail Merge Dictionary, and it describes various different tags you can use. So for example, there's the first name, last name, addresses. You probably only often use first name, but these are all here for you to use if you want to personalize your emails. Going back above that, but beneath the content, so we have 3 different areas we need to fill out here. So the first area is for recipient list, and this is who you'll be sending the email to. By default, it's selected as all who opted in, which is everybody in your class. If you don't want that, you just click on the drop-down menu here. You can ignore this section for members or admins, and then any list that you've created will be underneath that. And next I'll show you how to create email lists. So for example, let's say you created an event that's in Boston and you only want to invite people that are 50 miles out from Boston. So you could create a list for that and then save it, and then you could select it from this list. The next section is for e-newsletter subject, and that will be the subject line of the email. And the third section is for the scheduled send. So much like before, if we just click on the calendar button, we can select the date and the time that the email will go out. Now underneath that, there are 3 blue buttons. Save simply saves the content. It doesn't schedule it. Send test will send a test email to everybody from your class who is an administrator. So if it's just one of you, you'll get an email to your personal inbox. If there's a handful of you, you'll all get one. Even if there is only one website administrator for your class, it's probably a good idea to have at least one other person look over an email, especially if it's going out to your whole class. Just having an extra set of eyes can help. And then the third button is for queue or send now. So if I had picked a time in the future for it to go out, I would click the queue send now button, and then it'll send it out at that time. If I wanted to go out right away, I wouldn't need to put in a time. I could just click this button, and it would send it out right away. We don't recommend doing that. It's good probably just to maybe even just schedule it maybe an hour into the future, just to give yourself a little bit more time just to make sure everything looks good. And it will ask you, whether you're queuing it or sending it now, it will ask you if you really mean to do this before you proceed. I'm just going to save this for now. You can see what the email looks like. Now we'll go through one more step on this. This is a little bit more advanced. But let's say you created this email and you like the information that's here, but maybe you actually want this on your website and not just sent out as an email. So in order to copy the entire content of this, if we go back into our toolbar here, to the left of our templates button is a wider button that says source. If we click on source, that'll open up in a new window the HTML source for this page. Now it looks very complicated, but this is essentially just the code of the page. Now to make a copy of it, you can either highlight with our mouse the whole page, or if we type in Control-A on a PC or Command-A on a Mac, it'll highlight everything. And then to copy it, we could right-click and copy, or you could type in Control-C on a PC or Command-C on a Mac. So once that's copied, I can just click Cancel. So let's say I want to take this email content and make it into a page. So I'm going to go back to our blue circle at the top, select Manage Articles. I'm going to click on the blue Create Article button on the right. I'm going to click into the content space between the gray begin and end content bars. Once again, I'll click on that Source button near the bottom right of this toolbar. And it's currently blank because nothing's there. But if I either right-click and paste, or I could do Control-V on a PC, Command-V on a Mac, the content's now there. I click OK. And you can see that my email has been copied, and it's now can be used as a page on my website if I want. This is a good idea if you want to keep a record of all your class communications on your site. All you have to do is just copy the source code and paste it in, and it's now there. Okay, so for our final step, we're going to move on to the final document, which is called Managing Users. And when we say users, that just refers to your classmates. So to get to that section, once more, we're going to click on our blue circle, and this time select Manage Users. Now this page looks crazy overwhelming, but this is essentially just a search field. And your entire class will be uploaded into the back end of your site. This demonstration won't be super helpful for this because I just have a few Harvard employees in this list, but your entire class will be uploaded to your site for you to access for emailing purposes. So to do a search, let's say, for example, as I mentioned before, we want to do a Massachusetts event. So I'm going to go to the Home State Contains section, and note that even though it says contains, it really does just mean equals. So for example, if I type in MA for Massachusetts, it's just going to give me Massachusetts. It's not going to give me like Alabama or anything else that contains M and A in a state name. So in order to do a search, if we look down towards the bottom of this dark gray top section, there's this button here that says Output to Browser by default, and that's fine. We can leave it as that. And then to the right of it, there's a button that says Apply Filter. If I click on Apply Filter, it's going to do the search. So now if you look now underneath their dark gray section, it should only list everybody in your class that fulfills that criteria. This is sort of a good way just to preview what your list will look like. So let's say I'm happy with that and I want to save this as an actual email list. In this drop-down menu, which currently is set output to browser default, I'm going to click on the drop-down arrow and select Add to Group. Once again, I'm going to click on the Apply Filter button to the right of it. Now if you scroll down, you have a few different options here. The first question asks you, which group would you like to add these folks to? So if you're doing multiple different searches to compile a group together, so maybe you want to do Massachusetts and Rhode Island and Vermont and Maine, you could do those different searches, and then from this drop-down, you could select the different groups that you want to add them to. Or if this is a brand new group, it says to the right, or create a new one, you can just type it in. And underneath that, there's a light gray button that says Add these users now. So that has now created a group. If you want to be able to go into the back end and see what your various groups are, if you go up towards the top here below our menu bar, you can see there's multiple different options here. We're currently in the Users section, and we know that because it's highlighted in yellow. And to the right of it, it says Groups. And users and groups are really the only ones from this whole list of options that we'll need to be using. So I'm going to click on Groups, and your newest groups will appear at the top here. And it will say in parentheses the number of people in that group. So I just made this test group, and there were 5 people in my search. If I want to view those people, if you look over to the right, you have options for viewing them. You could edit it, or you could delete it. So View just shows me a listing of everybody that's in that group. Now there is one other way to make a group if you want to do a more complex search. In order to do that, we're going to be in our Group section, which we are right now. And once you're there, you'll see that underneath Users and Groups, it says Add Groups. So we're going to click on Add Groups. And we're going to scroll down. There's a lot of white space on this page. But you can see there's a section for group names. You can give it a name. Group description, where you can describe the group. And then towards the bottom, it says Group Type. And there's a drop down to the right of it that says Private Must Ask to Join. We're going to change this to Dynamic. And once you click on Dynamic, it adds 4 more rows below that. And this allows you to do and/or logic searches. So for example, let's say you want to do a search based on both where people live and maybe additionally what their profession is. You could do that using these various fields. So from these drop downs, you can select the tag that you want. So let's say you want a home address. You could just look for the home address state one. To the right of it is a drop down where you can select equals, less than, greater than, starts with, ends with, all these various options if you want to do a more complex search. One example of how to use this is, let's say you're doing a regional event based on zip codes, because usually everything in an area has a similar zip code, and they may all start with the same 3 or 4 numbers. So you could select home address zip, starts with, and then to the right of it, you could type in the first 4 numbers. And that's just an example. And then underneath that, you can change it to and or based on how you want the search to go. And once you're happy with that, if you look over to the bottom right, there's a light gray button that says Save Changes, and that will save that group. So this is a second way to create a group. So remember that we can either do it in the User section by doing a search, going under to this section, clicking Add to Group, then clicking Apply Filter. Or for more advanced search, we go into Groups. Underneath that, we select Add Groups. We go to the bottom. For group type, we change this to Dynamic. And we can do our search that way. So as a quick recap, clicking on this blue button here, we've now covered these 5 sections. In Manage Articles, we showed you how to create content for your website, including whether it be a news item or an event. And we showed you how to also put it behind Alumni Login. The Manage Files and Images section allows you to upload any files or other documents and then create image albums. Manage Newsletters allows you to create emails and send them to your classmates. And then you can also copy that email content and make pages of it for your website. Manage Events allows you to set items like the capacity, RSVPing, and the Look Who's Coming list. And Manage Users allows you to create lists of your classmates that you can email out to. So that way when you select a recipient list within the Manage Newsletters section, you can select the groups that you just made. Also note, now that we're back on our home page, when I made that event before, I tagged it as featured. So you can see right here in the upcoming event section, there it is right at the top. So that required very little work on my part. I simply just click that button, and it's now on my home page. So this concludes today's training. Remember that you can reference those 5 PDF training documents we sent you in addition to this video when learning how to use and manage your site. Additionally, be on the lookout in the future for further resources and training documents. This is certainly just the beginning of what we can teach you with this website. If you have any questions or need assistance, please email haaclasssites@harvard.edu or call the College Alumni Programs Office at 617-496-7001. We are here to help you. So thank you for volunteering to manage your brand new website, and we hope you enjoy it.